What if one day AI becomes president? If we truly hand the country over to AI, is that a sign of intelligence or actually a failure of humanity? Imagine an ordinary morning. The television turns on, phone notifications ring. Then one announcement appears that makes everyone pause for a moment. This country is now led by AI, not a human, not a party, not a charismatic figure, but a system that does not get tired, does not get angry, and never sleeps. It sounds like a solution, and at the same time, it feels like a warning. Because once that idea appears, the first question is not, can AI lead? The more honest question is this: what does it actually mean to lead? Does being president mean being the smartest at making decisions? Or instead, understanding humans, who are often irrational, easily offended, full of trauma, and sometimes choose the wrong thing for very human reasons? At this point, many people imagine AI as a superbrain. Just feed it data. Then all decisions will be perfect. No corruption, no drama, no false promises, no long, exhausting debates. It sounds ideal. But that is where the trap is. We often think leadership problems are only about intelligence. In fact, power is almost always more complicated than that. What makes a president strong is not just the ability to calculate, but the ability to withstand pressure, calming the public, reading mass emotions, making compromises, and sometimes making decisions that are not the most ideal, but that can still keep the country intact. Because politics is not just about right or wrong. Often, politics is the art of choosing between equally uncomfortable options. And this is where AI starts to feel strange. Because AI excels at things that can be measured. It can process data on health, economy, transportation, security, on a scale impossible for humans. It sees patterns that are invisible. It works endlessly. In a world full of bureaucracy, that sounds like a miracle. But right at that point, the problem begins to reveal itself. One thing we often forget: a country is not a production machine. A country is humans with fears, with hopes, with identity, and conflict. When a decision is made, people do not always ask, is this efficient? They ask something else. Is this fair? Is this humane? Is my voice valued? And this is where AI begins to meet its limits. Limits that are not simple. Because data can show what is happening, but data does not automatically answer what should happen. Try to see how humans build power. From kings to parliaments to elections. The system changes, the form evolves, but there is one common thread that remains the same. We want a leader who can be trusted. We do often fail. We often repeat the same mistakes. But there is still a need that does not disappear. We want to see a face behind decisions. Someone who can be held accountable, who can be blamed, who can be chosen or replaced. AI does not have a face like that. Or maybe it does. But it feels empty, because its accountability is vague. And at this point, the next question arises. If AI becomes president, who actually holds power? The algorithm? The company that created it? The team of programmers behind it? The country that controls its infrastructure? Or the data that trained it? Because one thing is certain. No system is born from a vacuum. Behind neutral AI, there are always human choices. Which data is used, what goals are prioritized, and what boundaries are considered acceptable to cross. So when we say AI leads, maybe what actually happens, power only shifts to a place that is harder to see, harder to touch, harder to question. But wait, there is another side that cannot be ignored. Now imagine the most tempting side. AI truly governs honestly. It cannot be bribed, not busy building an image. It does not need a party. It does not need political donors. It can examine budgets tirelessly, detect fund leaks, find patterns of corruption hidden behind thousands of documents. In administrative matters, AI might be far more disciplined than even the best humans. And for public services, this feels like a dream. Queues are faster, subsidies are more precisely targeted. Policies can be tested first, before damaging many things. It sounds almost perfect. But precisely at that point, we must start to be cautious. Because when everything is too neat, usually something is missing. Efficiency often comes with the temptation to cut freedom. A very intelligent system might decide, citizens who are at risk must be monitored more strictly. Certain information needs to be limited for the sake of stability. Protests are considered disturbances. Order is more important than minority voices. And when that happens, people may only realize something that is realized too late. An AI president that is very effective can also become very dangerous, especially if its measure of success is only one: stability, economic growth, or low crime rates, whereas human life is not as simple as a colorful dashboard. This is where the main conflict appears. AI excels at optimizing systems. But governance is not just about improvement. Governance is about values. And values are never as simple as numbers. What is more important? Freedom or security? Equality or innovation? Efficiency or compassion? There is no data set that can answer that alone. So when people dream about AI as president, they are actually dreaming of two things at once. They want a leader who is smarter than humans. And at the same time, they want a leader who never gets tired or makes mistakes. The problem is, those two desires can collide. Because it is precisely in those weaknesses that what we call humanity is born. Empathy, forgiveness, intuition, and the courage to take risks for something that cannot even be proven with numbers. We have been at a similar point before, when people believed machines would replace almost all jobs. The reality? Far more complicated. Machines do take many tasks, but humans are still needed for judgment, relationships, and meaning. And politics may follow the same pattern. AI can become a very powerful tool. In fact, perhaps the most advanced tool a country has ever had. But president? That is already a different territory. Not just about the ability to calculate, it is about mandate. And this is where everything returns to one key word: mandate. Because mandate is not born from intelligence alone. It is born from consent, from the feeling that we accept this decision, even if it is not perfect, from a simple belief that the ruler still lives in the same world as the people. The problem is, AI does not live in that world. It does not get hungry, does not fear losing a job, does not feel food prices rising, does not bear the shame when its life is exposed by the media. Precisely because of that, it can appear very objective. But at the same time, it also feels foreign, as if the country is led by something that knows everything, except one thing: what it feels like to be an ordinary human. So maybe the deeper question is no longer, can AI become president? But this: which parts of leadership do we actually want to hand over to machines? If we hand over data, that makes sense. If we hand over analysis, that can be very helpful. But if we hand over final decisions, we are stepping into a much riskier territory. Because when political decisions are detached from human accountability, what is lost is not just comfort. What is lost could be greater. The right to debate, the right to refuse, the right to help determine the direction together. Maybe one day, AI will sit very close to the center of power, helping formulate policies, reading risks, reducing foolishness that is often born from momentary emotions. And that makes sense, but if it truly becomes president, then the question is no longer how smart it is. The question changes. Who oversees it? For what purpose was it chosen? And most importantly, who can still say no when that system starts to go too far? Because in the end, a country does not only need a brain. A country needs a heart, needs responsibility, needs humans who are brave enough to bear the consequences of their own decisions. And maybe that is where the answer lies. Not in the image of a perfect AI, but in a much harder question. Are we truly ready to be led by something smarter than us? If it can never truly become one of us?